exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Red Talk on COVID-19. Today's theme is mental health, and my name is Chika. I'm so glad to be here today with Aya from the IFRC Reference Center for Psychosocial Support. Aya is an expert on everything related to mental health and COVID-19. So we're going to have a discussion about the importance of mental health and answer any questions that you all may have. So please feel free to ask your questions and we'll address them throughout the session. So Aya, in these interesting times that we're living through, why is mental health so important in the context of COVID-19?
Well, actually, mental health matters, and it always matters, but even more so when we have a situation of uncertainty and crisis like we do right now with the corona crisis. So mental health is important to all of us because we live through our social connections. We are social beings. So in order to thrive and do well, we need to be with others. We need to be connected and stay connected. So some people who are bringing, by all the worry and the anxiety that all this uncertainty brings on, some people will have more challenges. And we need to also to take care of people who have more worry and anxiety, because even though it's natural to be worried and have anxieties, and we all do that, the general public has it, we have it, everybody has it, then more people, there are some people that are really more worried that we also need to be mindful about helping and reaching out to.
You mentioned some people that we have to be a little bit more kind of attuned to their mental health. Within the context of COVID-19, are there specific populations or concerns that specific populations that we should be concerned about with their mental health?
Yeah, because actually whenever there is a crisis such as this, it can be a disaster, it can be a crisis like this, there will be a surge in mental health needs and in needs for psychosocial support. And right now, what we're seeing is that there are so many changes in the way that we have to relate. We have to keep physical distance, but we still need to keep socially close. We can have a digital presence, but keep physical apart. But there are some groups from some of the local Red Cross and Red Crescent and other humanitarian organizations who work with others, having direct contact. I can think of people working in ambulances, hospitals, first aiders, those in shelters. These are some of the people that we need to think about how we can support in different ways. Managers who have staff working from home, they also need to think about different ways of supporting the staff because they don't see them. You don't walk around in the morning and say, hello, how are you? Or shake hands whenever you report in for a job or for like I used to do when I was in the field with volunteers. So to see how they were doing, you need to do it differently.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of groups that have really special needs. I mentioned before that you have people who worry more. So that would be somebody having mental illnesses already, and it would be somebody having physical illnesses. And there would be special groups that we know. For those special groups, it's really very difficult times. Think about people who are homeless, people who live in the streets. They can't just go and use the public bathrooms or toilets anymore. People who are internally displaced. You can think about refugees, people living in shelters. You can think about those who have who use substances, who have a really tough time. So everybody who's vulnerable, they will have it much more difficult. And one thing we should also be mindful of is that whenever there is a crisis and you have to live at home with your family and your close one, if there is a tendency to lash out and react with anger, there will be a rise. We will see that a rise in interpersonal, in violence and intimate relationships. So there are a lot of groups that will have a difficult time, and we need to find out how can we offer another kind of support.
Yeah,
that was a very long answer. I'm sorry.
No, thank you so much. A lot of rich information about how different people across different circumstances are facing a range of stressors, and their mental health might be vulnerable because of the pandemic, and it has far more consequences than just on our physical health, but also on our emotional and mental well-being. Exactly. So as people are adapting to either working from home or, losing their jobs or really not knowing where their next meal will come from because of all this. How do we protect the mental health of our friends, of our family, of our neighbors? Are there any tools? Are there any signs or things that we should look out for during this time in particular?
Well, yeah, because yes, it's a very good question. And apart from reaching out, sending messages, you can send text message, WhatsApp, phone, email. That's really important because we have to keep distance, or like people do in some countries, sing from the balcony every night to feel connected. That's important. But then if you're talking to somebody who's really worried, friend calls you, you interact with somebody, you sit in a hotline center run by a local Red Cross or Red Crescent, then we have, just like first aiders do have their first aid, we have our psychological first aid. So here is a special guide for psychological first aid for Red Cross, Red Crescent societies. And to explain a bit about what we do, we do follow 3 basic principles. So we look, we listen, and we link. So look is knowing a bit about the situation, also knowing about which information is needed. So we have done that kind of evaluation. You can say about which kind of situation is my friend in, which kind of needs may my friends have, or if you're in a call center, the people calling in, what will they need? And then when you listen, of course, it's not only sitting there listening like, you will listen with because you may be on a phone because you can't see people. So you may have to listen with your entire being to what is being said and what is not being said. So you listen it's not only about how you listen, but you're also in psychological first aid taught about how you can respond. Because if somebody says, I'm really worried because I don't know what to do. I have to take care of my job and I have 3 children I have to homeschool at the same time and blah, blah, blah. Then you don't say, well, Easter's coming up, so very soon there will be some time off, or you should enjoy it. Why don't you enjoy it and read some books? You really listen to the concern. So you learn about how you can answer, how you can say, yeah, I understand that must be difficult. Tell me a bit more about it. What bothers you the most about this? And third principle of link is actually finding out not only how can we help the people. Sometimes, of course, practical help is really of the essence, but it can also be linking people to family and friends. In many situations, it's all about, when did you get in touch with your family? Did you get in touch with your friends? What can you do? Do you know anybody who can help you? You can reach out to, or it can be where can people get updated information if they call and they don't really know, or they're worried and they just want you to say yes, it sounds like a good idea, because it's actually the same as the authorities are saying. So you're doing the right thing. Very often that will be the case. So link can have many forms, and sometimes, of course, it will be linking up with professional services that can offer more in-depth and clinical services to people who have the needs.
Thank you so much for the rich description. It sounds like PFA is really something practical, something that we can
very hands-on.
Very hands-on. Is it for everyone? Can anyone? Can I tell the PFA to my mom and teach her can she learn how to do PFA and use it as a tool?
Absolutely. When we say psychological first aid, we say psychological first aid for all. It's like first aid. Everybody should know it. It's a humane way of being in contact with others and helping and supporting them, and knowing what you can do is actually very empowering, because very often you don't reach out to others because you're not sure, am I doing the right thing? Just like in first aid. But if you know that you can really walk up to somebody and say, hello, my name is such and such, and is there anything I can help you with? You look like you're lost, or you're worried, or you have some concerns. If you know that you can do that, then it's much easier to do it. So
From the,
absolutely the same. Everybody should learn it.
from the way you described it, I think it really sounds like to me being a good friend and learning how to be a good friend and kind of be attuned to the other person's needs and what they might need to hear at that specific time. But for the people joining us now, welcome. We're on our first episode of COVID Red Talk, and we're going to have these sessions every few weeks. So welcome. We're talking about mental health with Aya from the IFRC Reference Center. So on to my next question. We've spoken a lot about how we can help others, how we can kind of look for signs of distress and maybe poor mental health in other people. What can we do to promote our own positive mental health and make sure that we stay healthy and mentally healthy as much as possible during this time as well?
Thank you for that question. And my favorite answer is that, we have all seen these posters with 10 good advice, eat, exercise, sleep well, but it's not that easy. It's like if the doctor said to you, go home, I'll see you in a week and learn to play piano till I see you again. It's actually something you need to practice. So if you want to learn yoga, if you want to learn meditation, if you know there's something that's going to be good for you, relaxation skills, now is a very good time, but it takes persistence and you need to do it. So changing habits does take some time. So some of the good habits that you can do is what the good advice says: eat well, exercise, sleep well, and sleeping well is one thing that's very often disturbed by worry. So we started this conversation talking about people that were worried and people were anxious. So let's end there by saying that a lot of people will worry and ruminate, as it's called technically. They will go, it's like have a high-speed machine in their head that will constantly say, what if, and then go on and on and on. And you need to learn not to worry all the time because mentally you're not capable of doing it. So you need to learn to say, I will worry, for instance, every day between 5 and 6. So if a worrying thought comes to you during the day, you will say, go away. I will take care of you tonight between 5 and 6. So that is a practice that actually helps. If you do it really consistently, you can learn it. And this will lead us to sleep well, because sleeping is often interrupted by you cannot fall asleep, you wake because you worry. And what you can do is the same. You can put worries aside. And instead of worrying, think about the good things that happen during the day. And I know this sounds very like psychologically, blah, 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 but it works. So think about the good moments you had. Like you and I, we've had a good contact. So tonight, if I'm worried and I want to sleep, I will think of you and the nice feeling I had when talking to you. So these are very simple things that we can do, but they take practice and then they become a habit.
Thank you so much, Aya. You've given us a lot of practical tips that we can kind of take away from this session and promote our positive mental health and those of us around those around us. Sorry. So thank you everyone for joining us for our first episode of Red Talk. As I said before, this is going to be a regular thing, so keep your eye out in the coming weeks. And thanks so much. We're going to close now. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.